The Great Mosque of Cordoba is one of the earliest structures still standing from the time that Muslims ruled Al-Andalus. This is the Muslim Iberia, including most of Spain, Portugal, and a small section of southern France. And this was during the late 8th century. Cordoba is about a 2-hour train ride south of Madrid. And this is quite a place to visit if you are ever in Spain. The Great Mosque of Cordoba is a structure that has embedded in its history the supplanting of one faith over another. And if we look at this aerial view, we see the exterior wall of a mosque, and then embedded in it is what seems to be a Christian church. Historians believe that there had first been a temple here to the Roman god Janus on this site, and the temple was converted into a church by invading Visigoths who seized Cordoba in 572. Next, the church was converted into a mosque, which we see here. And then it was completely rebuilt by the descendants of the exiled Umayyads in the first Islamic dynasty, who had originally ruled from their capital in Damascus. So, the most important building project then is the Great Mosque that was on the site of the Visigoth church. And all of this is to say that it then marks the triumph of Islam in Spain. Much like the Great Dome of the Rock marked the triumph of Islam in Jerusalem. It was begun in 784 by Abd al-Rahman I and added on to several times until it was one of the largest mosques in the Islamic West. The building itself has been expanded over 200 years, and it comprises a large hypostyle prayer hall, and that is this entire roofed complex, which includes that structure that looks like a Christian church in the middle of the hypostyle hall. Well, remember that a hypostyle hall means a large space that is filled with columns, and we can think of, say, the Hall of Amun-Re in Egypt, to think about what a hypostyle hall means. We also have a large courtyard with a fountain in the middle that includes an orange grove. And this is important because the orange tree was thought to have been brought to Cordoba from Syria. It also has a minaret, which is a tower that is used to call the faithful to prayer. And now that is encased by a large bell tower. Here is a view of the hypostyle hall, and you can see that it is really just a forest of columns. And the prayer hall has 36 piers and 414 columns topped by a system of double-tier arches that support a timber roof. And you'll notice that this kind of double arcade, which is kind of a double-decker arch system, this becomes very influential throughout the Islamic world. It's also an interesting way of reusing a Roman column, and you'll notice that these are monolithic columns, meaning they're all one piece of marble, and they were probably taken from the earlier Roman temple that stood here. So it's a way of reusing a piece of architecture that also symbolically shows the dominance of one religion over another. But in order to get that height and still use the kind of stumpy Roman Corinthian columns, they extended it with this pier that allows for more height And in order for the arch not to seem too high, the arch was doubled. It also is this very interesting horseshoe shape of an arch, a rounded arch, which becomes very influential in the Islamic world as well. This arch also makes use of the voussoirs, which are these oblong-shaped diagonal um, um, stones that support and push the thrust of the arch down to the sides onto the columns. The stone in the center is called the keystone that holds the entire arch into place. But the way this kind of has a candy cane striping of alternate red and white stones really makes the structure of the arch visible.